when our community shares about Clean Simple Eats to their family and their friends, like it really means the world to us.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Some of my favorite stories to share are those businesses that are built from a passion of doing something that you love that turns into something you never expected. And that is certainly the case today with our guest, Erika Peterson, who with her husband started the company Clean Simple Eats, which offers proteins, nut butters, and programs to help people all over the world become healthy and create lifestyles that they love. It is a lifestyle, not a diet, and I personally love their products. You can actually use the code Camille Walker on any of their products or programs for a discount. Erika is a mother of 4. She is a stay-at-home mom who started a now multi-million-dollar business, and she loves being at home with her kids and the ability to impact thousands of lives. What's even cooler is that she was able to bootstrap it every step of the way, taking on no debt, no major investors, and she and her husband have really come to find a stride that works for them within their own roles, really highlighting who they are, their passion, and their purpose. I want you to listen carefully because in this episode, Erika really dives into establishing a loyal following, fulfilling a very much needed problem with a solution, and creating a business that now has fueled her passion and will continue to grow with what she's built. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Call Me CEO, and I am thrilled to have Erika Peterson with us today. She is the co-owner of Clean Simple. Oh my gosh, I have never done that. Clean Simple Eats. Why am I tongue-tied? Maybe it's because I love your company so much, but holy smokes, it's all about making a cleaner and healthier life possible without all the rigmarole, making it approachable and something that is a lifestyle rather than a fad or a crash diet. And as a mother, she knows the craziness and the chaos that comes with running a business from the ground up. And I cannot wait to hear your story, Erika. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's an honor.
Wow. Okay. So will you please tell us about your family? Because I want to hear first how you met, because you and your husband are such a dynamic team. And I look at the two of you like that has to be like the perfect couple to create a program to help you eat healthier and look better. Like you are so hot. Like the two of you are just such a hot couple. Tell me about you and your family.
Thank you. So JJ and I have been together for a really long time. We met in high school. So I was 16, he was 17. And we laugh now because it's like, how does that even work out when you meet so young to still be together all these years later? So we've been together about 20 years and we've been married 16 years and we have 4 kids together, 13 down to 4. So they keep us really busy, but I've heard we're in the sweet spot right now because we're not in the crazy teenage years quite yet. Our 13-year-old is still sweet as can be, but then we're also out of diapers. So we're kind of enjoying that sweet spot right now.
Oh, I'm right there with you. We have 4 kids and have been married almost 17 years.
Okay.
And our kids are 13 down to 5. So we're like right in that same, yes, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can say everyone get in the car and everyone just gets in the car and you're not having to worry.
On usually. Yeah.
Oh man, those shoes are still a struggle. I'm like, how do you just have the one shoe? Why is it always the mysterious one?
Or they leave shoes at their friend's house. It's like, how did you leave barefoot? And you just didn't even know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I totally know what you mean. Now, do you have boys, girls? What are the genders here?
We have 2 boys, 2 girls, and it's every other. So, we planned it just perfectly.
Well, lucky. Oh my goodness. My daughter wants a sister so bad. Your business, Clean Simple Eats, I know that it involves both of your talents so much and your love of wellness. Take us back to the beginning. What did that look like? How did you decide to do this venture?
Yeah. So honestly, I think many great business ideas are born by accident. and out of someone trying to solve a problem in their own personal life. And that's definitely the case for Clean Simple Eats. So after my third baby was born, I was starting out on my own health journey. JJ, my husband, has always been like big fitness buff, really into clean eating. He didn't even care what food tasted like as long as it was fueling him properly and keeping him looking good, you know. And I'm like the foodie over here, like, no, my food has to taste good. That's very important to me. So I was always like in high school and stuff, I was very active. I was into dance and I've always been active, but I've always loved food. I've always loved junk food in particular. Tastes good. It always has to be enjoyable. So as I was embarking on this health journey, I was really struggling mentally, you know, with postpartum depression, and my baby had colic. And I just found myself in this dark place. And my husband was super fit. He was a personal trainer at the time. And so I was just like, he's out there like personal training. I'm stuck at home. He's with all these fit people all day, you know, and I'm just here. Like I was just in a really bad mental state. And so I knew that I needed to pull myself out of that. And I didn't know how. So I actually went off dairy because doctors had told me that might help with the colic. And so it's like, hey, if I can get my baby to stop crying, that might solve 99% of my problems. So I cut dairy out of my diet, which also cut out a lot of the junk I was eating. So, you know, cereal, Pop-Tarts, all those like quick grab and go, you know, unhealthy foods I was eating, I had to cut out. And so I was then trying to replace some of those foods that I loved with healthier options. So I was swapping in, you know, coconut oil in place of butter. And I was amazed that the food actually was tasting good. So I started with desserts because that was kind of the thing that I felt like I was really letting go of, getting rid of dairy. But it slowly progressed into, I tell people this all the time, start small. You don't need to overhaul your whole life at once, because that's how it worked for me. It was like I took out dairy, and then because of how good I was feeling and the food tasted amazing, it kind of trickled into everything else. You know, we stopped buying like frozen chicken nuggets and started making our own chicken nuggets and just little things like that. And it was amazing. The results I saw physically in just, you know, weight loss, and I started seeing muscle definition, and but really mentally, that was the big thing for me. Was my postpartum was gone. Like that foggy cloud was lifted and the food tasted good. So I was excited about that. It wasn't something that I was just like white knuckling to the end. You know, it was like, I love this. I love this new way of life. And I felt like I needed to share it with all the other moms out there that were in my same position, because I felt like I had just struggled. So that's really where Clean Simple Eats started, was me on my own health journey, and then discovering that healthy food can actually taste good, because other meal plans I had tried were just bland and boring and lacked variety. And for the foodie like me, I needed variety, I needed flavor, and I needed something that was sustainable. And so that's where I was like, there's a hole in the market. I need to create something to help these moms out.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the mental aspect of it and all of the junk that's thrown into our food, I think that it's so easy for us to dismiss it, that it must be something else. It must be something else. But there is so much in our food that we don't realize is there. Do you feel like there was a lot of discovery that happened realizing that as you started creating your own product and protein powders and different things that you learned more?
Yes. Turning, even just at the store, turning every food around and becoming a label reader, you know, you're like, oh my goodness, look how many ingredients are in that I've been eating. Or like, you know, this spread against this spread, this one has 5 ingredients, this one has 25 ingredients, you know. I just didn't really do that before. And so my kitchen IQ went up. I learned how to cook. I learned about macronutrients, and I learned what was in food. And that's where we became very particular about brands that we use, and in creating our own, formulating our own products.
So take me to that space where you start formulating these ideas of what you want to eat and how you're going to do it. How did that turn and transition into creating a business?
Yeah. So let's see. I was so passionate about healthy eating. I started an Instagram account, and this was like 10 years ago. This was before Instagram was even, like, we were all just sharing pictures of us doing whatever with the weird filters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, sepia tone. And no one was really running a business at the time on Instagram. I mean, I think influencers, I don't even know if that was a thing 10 years ago, but maybe that it was like groundbreaking. So when I started my Instagram, it was really just an outlet, a creative outlet for me to share my healthy recipes with other people. And I was amazed when I would run into like family or friends, they would be like, your food, your recipes look so good. I screenshot them all the time, but I haven't had the chance to make any of them. So I was kind of like, oh, like awesome, I'm sharing it and it looks good, but I'm not really making an impact because you're screenshotting them and not actually making the food. So I decided I needed to, and I got certified as a health and wellness coach, and I was coaching a handful of women at the time. But I was also frustrated because I could only help a handful of women at once because I was also a mother of 3. So I decided to make a digital product, put all the recipes into a meal plan. I'll tell you what to buy at the grocery store. I'll tell you when to eat what meals to eat throughout the week, and it will be full of variety and balance. And every meal will have its own macro ratio balance. So then you don't have to be behind the scenes tracking either. It's just all the work done for you. And so that's really where the start of the business happened. And because it was a digitally native product, I was able to make revenue right away. Like I didn't have to really put money into it. It was really just time. Started digital. And so I think when I first launched my first meal plan, I was in 2015. I made $2,000 pretty much overnight. And it was amazing. Like that was like one of my greatest victories, just being like, I can make money, making an impact, changing lives and doing what I love. And so from there, I went on to then create a fall meal plan, a winter meal plan, a spring meal plan. And then we created challenges around that to build up our community and really create that accountability, since we weren't working face to face with people anymore. It was an online thing. And that's really where the fire started and the business took off. Really kind of on accident.
Yeah. And I love your books, your meal plans. They're a really unique size and like the coil of it and the size of it. The pictures are beautiful. Like, how did you source that and figure out like how you wanted it printed and how you wanted it to look? And did you take your own photography or did you hire people? Like, what was the breakdown?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did start out, I do all my own photography, but I was not a photographer. I started out with just a very janky little camera, and still some of those pictures are in my books that they make me crazy because I look back and I'm like, oh, I need to retake all those. But we started with printing at Office Depot. So we were doing the digital thing, and then people were requesting hard copies. So we would go take those in there. We would print off 500 copies from Home Depot. Cost us so much money. We were making like no money on them. And then we were shipping them ourselves out of our house. So that was a crazy time. My kids were stuffing envelopes, and it was really just this family affair, taking it to the post office, sending it off. And then we found a company here locally. Paragon Press does all of our printing in Salt Lake, and they've been doing it for us for years. They're really great to work with. And we started out with the big 8x10 spiral bound. And I don't know, I don't know why we changed to the smaller or why we changed the coil. I have no idea. It's all a blur to me now. But yeah. And then we hired our very first team member, and she was like, you are shipping these from your house? Like, no, you can't do that anymore. You need to hire someone. I promise it'll pay for itself. And so we got a warehouse and we started shipping from a warehouse. And that was really a game changer for us.
Yeah. Take me through those steps of magnifying your business and your outreach and how you were able to maintain your life at home, plus this exploding business. Like, where was your mind and how were you able to manage it all?
Yeah. So at first, when we started, like I said, it was just a side hobby. It was never, my main goal in life was always just to be a stay-at-home mom. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I was always doing something on the side to make money. It was just a creative outlet, but it was always a side hustle or a hobby, never meant to be a career. And so this really started as me being a mom during the day, and then my husband would get home from work and I would work all night. So it was just this juggle of, he still had his full-time job in retail, actually, or not retail. He was a commercial developer, interior design, that kind of stuff. And so he was doing that. He was also personal training on the side. So he would personal train in the morning, then he would go to his job. He would come home. We'd have dinner together. He would do the kid thing. And then I would work all night, writing my books and things like that. So we did that for a long time. That was probably 2 years worth of doing that. It was a lot. And one day he came home from work and we kind of just looked at each other in the eyes and had this common feeling of, this isn't working. And this was when my business started to surpass, my income started to surpass his. And he has always had a passion in business. He's a natural entrepreneur and he loves fitness, and he graduated in exercise science. That was his major. And so like, you take my expertise with recipe creation, photography, nutrition, pair it with his business expertise and fitness background. And really it was like the perfect combination where we could both do what we love. And so we just looked at each other and we were like, why don't we do what people think we do? Because everyone thought he was a personal trainer. No one knew he was like in real estate development. And so he jumped ship, he quit his job, and he came on full-time with me in 2016, February. And so that's when we really legitimized the business. He was able to like set up all the taxes and all, because I wasn't doing any of that. You know, I'm a creative, so I wasn't even focusing on the business stuff. This wasn't going to be my full-time career. It was just a side hustle. So now he came in, he legitimized everything, incorporated the business. And we really have, I feel really lucky because I have a husband that supports me, and he's been able to go 50-50 with me on taking care of the kids. And so when our kids were little, we would just kind of look at the day, be like, who has what when, and we would just balance it and juggle it. So we were 50% parent, 50% career. And that's how we did it for a very long time. Now my youngest is almost 5. And so he's in school half the time. And so the juggle isn't as bad anymore, but that's how we did it for a very long time.
Wow. I have tried working a few different times with my husband, and it wasn't good for us. Like, it was tricky because I feel like with online business that I've created and him having his own business life coming into working with me, it was very much like, well, I don't want to feel like I'm working for you. Like, how did you find a good balance for that? That's a huge talent. Did you do things digitally to keep track of it? Did you just have a really good understanding of like whose roles were whose? It sounds like they were pretty defined from the beginning.
Yeah, I think luckily, personality wise, it works. I know just some personalities, no matter what your talents or strengths are, if they're in different areas, it's just never going to work. And I've talked to so many people that are like, oh, if I worked with my husband, I would kill him. That would never work. But we have a great marriage, right?
Yeah.
So I think personality wise, it just works for us. We're lucky that way. But also we have been very intentional about staying in our lane. I don't go in his lane. He doesn't come in my lane. And that has been the biggest difference in the world. If we are ever to cross over, if he comes into mine, that's when things get hairy. And so we really just had to establish those, you do this, I do this type lanes. And it was natural because our strengths and talents are in different areas. And so I think really we got lucky that way. It wasn't necessarily, we sat down and said this, you do this, you do this. But it's actually very different in our home. We don't do that in our home. We kind of both do whatever is needed.
Whatever needs doing.
Yeah. So, but in work life, we're very, you stay here and I stay here. And that's how we keep the harmony.
That's interesting. So you're saying in your home life, it's very much like shared everything, like laundry, dishes, kids, whatever. Outside stuff, like either goes, like either way.
Yes.
That's awesome. We had started talking before we were recording the call and saying how we both were born and raised in Utah, and women pursuing a career or having ambitions, it can be challenging because I was raised with very traditional roles, although my mom did work most of my life growing up and as a teacher. So it was like either maybe you're a teacher or a nurse. but an entrepreneur, not so much. So tell me about that. How you were saying that that was something that you always saw yourself as a stay-at-home mom, which was my ideal as well. But it didn't mean that I didn't want to do something more. And I think that's what you were talking to.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom most of my life, but in middle school, she actually was a very successful entrepreneur. She did MLMs and she was really, really good at it.
Ah,
She is amazing with people. And so she did that for probably 5 to 10 years. I don't want to mess that up, but she was very successful. So I did see her being able to balance the work-life balance with family and with running a business. My dad was very traditional in his 9 to 5 job, but he also owned his own business and he worked very, very hard. So I had very good examples of hardworking parents who also made time for their family. But yeah, ultimately in school, I did not like school. I never wanted to even go to college. I did do a couple years of college, but it wasn't to go into a career. It was more so just to check the box of getting a degree. I never really had a lot of interest in it because I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So it was like, why go to college if I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom? But yeah, so I guess just those examples rubbed off on me. I've always wanted to. I run a couple of my own businesses on the side before this, but really just as a hobby. So yeah, I don't know where it comes from.
yeah. Well, I think it's ingrained more than you know, because it does take that ambition and also that creativity. And it sounds like you tapped into it. So this is really interesting to me that it was only what, a year and a half of you deciding I'm going to monetize this. Then your husband joined you and you then started. Is that when you started developing the challenges that got more people involved?
So I started my Instagram in 2012. So that was.
So you were building an audience for 3 years.
Yeah. So I was giving away all free recipes for a good 3 to 4 years before I even started selling anything. So building in my community, I was posting on other people's blogs like Chris and Heidi Powell. I did a lot of work with them, wrote some recipes for their books and just guest posted on their blogs, which really boosted my following and just little things like that just had my Instagram taking off. But yeah, I gave away so much for free in the beginning because it was just a passion project for me. It was just a fun side hobby. So in 2015 was really when we decided to monetize it and do the business thing. In 2016 is when, yeah, he came on. So 3 to 4 years before that.
That's awesome. Well, I think with any business, so many times I have heard if it starts with real passion and care and concern, like where your heart is, and then you were giving, and then you asked, and it was your audience was perfectly primed for that. They're like, yes, please give this to us. It was like you were fulfilling such a big need. What has been the most fulfilling part about seeing transformations that you've been able to assist with those who have taken your challenge? Because explain a little bit what your challenges are so people kind of understand what it is all about, and then what was a big payday or payoff seeing those transformations.
Yeah, so we do 7-week challenges every quarter. So we have different meal plans, different seasonal meal plans, and someone either grabs a meal plan or they grab the CSC Plus app, which has all the recipes in it, and we all eat the 7 weeks of food together as a community. And then at the end, they turn in their before and after pictures, and we choose overall best transformation. And then that person either gets a cash prize or a trip or something like that. So that's really in a nutshell, the gist of the challenges. But I would say, that very first challenge we did and we saw the pictures come in, that was just confirmation that the program works. Really, before that, it was based on our own experience and our own results and just working with our one-on-one clients. So we didn't have a whole lot of research-based evidence that, our program worked. So when those pictures first came in, we were, ecstatic that it really worked. But I would say the physical is really cool to see in pictures, but it really is, like I talked about in the beginning, the mental and emotional change that happens that I think people start with the physical in mind. And then when they're done, they're like, yeah, I saw this huge physical change, but that's not really what I care about anymore. It's the mental change. It's the emotional change. It's me being able to be there for my kids, run around with my kids, be the person I want to be, have the energy that I want to have, and live the life I want to live. So that really is the biggest thing for us. And the sustainability piece, I'm not in this for a 6-week, 7-week, quick fix. It's been so rewarding for us to see people stick with this for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Now that we've been around for a while, we have people that were with us from 2015 that started our very first challenge. And to see them get results, change their life, and then be able to sustain those habits, that is where the real reward for me is that it's a sustainable lifestyle that they're able to maintain.
That's incredible. What a gift to give people. I need to go pull my books out and like do it. You're like revving me up. Like, I need to do this.
It really is. I feel so lucky to have such a rewarding job. Really, it's like the best thing in the world. I'm very lucky.
So for those who are listening and have been longtime fans of yours, what is your favorite, if you had like a top 3, I don't know, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, or like top 3 recipes that you have, what are some of your favorites you've developed?
Ooh, that is so hard. Okay, so Boss Bake mac and cheese. That's probably my family's very favorite. That's what my kids request constantly. Any of the oatmeals. Right now I'm hooked on the banana bread oatmeal. I have that almost every single day. Let's see. And then dessert-wise, any of the Muddy Buddy recipes. So it pretty much is like a Chex Mix mixed with one of our nut butters, honey, protein powder, just all mixed together. Really, really good.
This is making me hungry. I am dying over your maple donut protein powder.
Have you tried it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That one is
incredible.
My favorite right now. I'm hooked.
I love the mint chocolate. I love the mint cookie too. That's another one of my big. Good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. They're all so good. And how fun. So when you're formulating these ideas and these recipes, I loved your reel that you did recently where it was like, you already had all these bags full in your arms of like all these new flavors. And you're like, it's never enough. Like you want to do more. Like, what is that process like? And how are you able to put together that formula? Like just trying to understand that. How does that work?
Yeah. So from the very beginning, my husband has background in formulation and product development. And so he was the one that really got the base of the protein where it needed to be with macros and ingredients and all of that. But once we have the base, I'm the kind of product creator as far as flavor and texture and all of that goes. And so typically we will take recommendations from our audience. Lots of the time we'll pull the audience like, what flavors do you want to see next? Or lots of the time, it just is something that sparks in our head, like that would be an amazing flavor. Let's try it. So with the offbeat butters, I create all of those first in my kitchen. So I grab all the ingredients, mix it together. And if it's a maple donut, I just kind of think like, what ingredients go in a maple donut? What makes it this or that or the other? And then I just create it in my kitchen. Then we send it to the manufacturer and they just mass produce it. With the protein powder, we have the base. And then I send a recipe idea or a flavor idea to the manufacturer. He works his magic in his lab. He sends me back samples and we kind of go back and forth until it's right. I can like up the creaminess, up the flavor, down the spices, those kind of things, back and forth until we're like, we nailed that one. And then they mass produce that one.
Wow. That is so cool. You have created what an incredible company. It's saving and helping so many people with their health and their confidence and everything else. What do you see vision long-term for your business? Like, do you feel like you've made it, like you're really comfortable and this is it, like you don't want to change anything? Or is there something in the future where you're like, I love it now, but?
Yeah, I don't know. So we're big dreamers, visionaries. So I don't know if I would ever say that we've made it. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point where I've said, I've made it, because we have such big dreams. And ultimately it comes down to impact. Just like I've talked about before, it's about changing lives and making an impact on as many lives as we can. And it started right here in Utah and it's slowly, going out. And so when our community shares about Clean Simple Eats to their family and their friends, like it really means the world to us. And that is how our business has grown. That's what our business is built on, is word of mouth. And so we'll forever be grateful to our community for that. But our goal is to go huge. Our goal is to expand, blow the roof off this thing, get it as far and wide as we can. And we have a lot of new product development coming down the pipe that we're really excited about as well.
Ooh, well, that sounds enticing. What advice would you give to moms that are listening right now and thinking, I want to do something, but how do I manage my time? What has been some of the things that have helped you the most with keeping a balance in your home?
Yeah, I learned this the hard way, actually, is being very intentional with the things you say yes to. When I very first started this, I felt like I needed to be everything and do everything for everyone. And that's when burnout happens. I actually just listened to your podcast on burnout, and man, that resonates with me so much because I've reached that point. And so that really is the goal when going into a business and juggling your family life. I mean, it's a full-time job managing your kids' schedules as it is. Like, that is a huge task, keeping them fed and alive and to all their various activities. So when you're adding in a business as well, you really need to be so intentional with your time. And I've really gotten intentional about saying yes and no to things, because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So when I say yes to going to an event, I'm maybe saying no to my daughter's soccer game, right? So you really just have to weigh out your priorities and find out what's the most important to you, because your life will get busier as you are introducing a business into it. So you just really need to find out who those people are in your life that you really want to cultivate relationships with. If those people are outside of that tight circle, you can say no to those things. It's okay. You don't have to go to every event. You don't have to be there for every single person. But if they're in that tight knit circle, that's when I say yes. And that's when I try to be there for those people and be to those events and be to those special things. Lots of those people are just in my family. And, I just have a really close, tight-knit circle of friends. But yeah, just being intentional, being very intentional with your time on where you say yes and no.
Yeah. Amen. You couldn't have said it better. I totally agree. Is there a time that you can think of where you made a mistake or some kind of something along the way where you thought, oh man, I screwed up, but what did you learn from it? Is there something that you can think of as you've built this business?
Yes. A lot.
Yay, she's human, just like the rest of us.
Yes. I would say anytime that I have not followed my gut, or if I've ever tried to cut corners on something and do things faster, I always regret it because it always ends up in a huge disaster. There was this one time when we had only had maybe 3 protein flavors out, and we decided to launch a strawberry and a snickerdoodle. This was, I think, beginning of 2019. And I had done the test tasting of the samples. They were great. I signed off on it. But when they made the big batches, I didn't want to take the time to taste test the big batches. So they bagged it all. We did like 3,000 of each flavor. And on launch day, I was putting it in water and I was shaking it up and I was doing a story, like showing people the protein and tasting it. And it was so bad. Like the snickerdoodle had the bitter backbite and the strawberry was watery. Like it wasn't as creamy as it was. And so that was a huge learning experience for me, that you don't cut corners. Like I would rather push back my launch date and get it right than try to cut corners and do things fast to spike your revenue quicker, something like that. So that day I just crawled back in my bed and literally was just crying. Like, what do I do? We already launched it. People are already buying it. And so we called the manufacturer and we said, we can't sell these. So they ripped up open every single bag. They threw it back in the mixer, remixed it, reworked it, got me samples. Our manufacturer is clear in Nephi. They're like an hour and a half away from us. So to get samples back and forth, it's either a road trip or, an overnight delivery. So we road trip, we met halfway, we did samples, approved those. They rebagged them. Thankfully, we had bought extra bags for those. And so the delivery was really late. Our customers didn't get their product for probably a week and a half to 2 weeks after. But just an example of trying to do things fast, trying to cut corners, and just it turning into be a huge mess. So I would say if you're just starting a business, don't cut corners. Listen to your gut. That has been like my guiding light through running a business. If someone wants to collaborate you and you feel yucky about it, even if they have a big name, like don't go forward with it. Just listen to your gut. And it has not led me astray, really. So don't cut corners, listen to your gut and do things the right way.
Awesome. Erika, this has been so wonderful. You've had so many good bits of advice for us. Is there anything else you want for those who are listening or have been a part of your journey for a long time? What do you want to say to that person?
Oh, just thank you. Honestly, I can't thank my community enough for supporting me, believing in me. They will buy product, a new flavor from me without even trying a sample because they trust me and support me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all those moms out there who are thinking about starting a business, I would say, do it. You can be a stay-at-home mom and you can run a business at the same time. You can find balance, I promise. And you just have to start. Don't wait till it's perfect because it will never be perfect. Just start because we need you. Think if we didn't start our businesses, like people need you and they need your special talents. So go for it.
I agree. That's awesome. Please tell everyone where they can find you and where they can buy your product.
You can find us on Instagram at Clean Simple Eats. You can find us online at cleansimpleeats.com and then find our app on either Google Play or the Apple Store, CSC Plus app.
Awesome. And I actually am an affiliate, so I will add my link below with a discount that you can grab. And I promise you, if you haven't tried the maple donut yet, you will die. It is so good. It feels like
you're all flavor.
It's so
Thank
good.
You.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me, Camille.
You're welcome. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss. Over the last 10 years, my life has been greatly blessed by being able to work as a stay-at-home mom to help us pay down debt and also have more financial independence to do things we like vacationing and having fun activities for the kids. A question I get asked a lot is how can I too create my own at-home business? And after racking my mind for quite a long time, I decided that a virtual assistant business is where it's at right now. There are so many ways to be a successful virtual assistant, and this is something that I wanted to help other moms be able to do. And that is why I created the 60 Days to VA program. And it has been so wonderful to see these women who had no previous experience be able to create a business of their own with clients and success. I have a recent graduate, Rachel, who says, I can't believe how much I learned in only 7 weeks. When I started the course, I learned how to do administrative work that I found online, to have my own LLC, beautiful website, knowledge of how to properly market myself on any platform, and the ability to use my different business programs. I feel so professional and confident to take on new clients. I would highly recommend this course to anyone who is thinking about joining. Live sessions with Camille and other experts are worth the investment alone. You will complete the course with all the tools and resources you need to be your own boss, make additional income for your family, and really feel confident in the value you add to the business world. I want this for all of you, and I can tell you that this is the kind of confidence that will come to you as well when you take my virtual assistant course. If you are interested, go to camillewalker.co/VA. Again, that's camillewalker.co/VA.